Howdy folks, name's General Soulfax and you're watching another episode of War Thunder Air Forces. And today I got something special for you. Now this is the Nakajima Kikka and it's piloted by Mr. Unknown, who is flying it on the Korsun map, or Operation Korsun. It just really doesn't matter. But yeah, this is, like I said, an air simulated battle, and the Nakajima Kikka, as you might have saw just a second ago, bears great resemblance to another jet fighter of its era. Actually the first mass-produced jet fighter ever, the Messerschmitt 262 Schwabel. But that's basically where the similarities end between these two aircrafts. So the story goes as followed. In 1944, the Japanese military attaché witnessed the trials of the Messerschmitt 262 in Germany, and right off the bat they knew they wanted a similar aircraft. But the biggest problem that they faced is they didn't have a single copy of the Messerschmitt 262 or a single copy of the BMW 003 engine that they can then copy from and produce their own aircraft. So as a result, while the Messerschmitt 262 and the Kikka are very similar, they are very different. The fuselage of the Kikka is not as well made. It's not as streamlined as the fuselage of the Messerschmitt 2, and its aerodynamic capabilities, that's a very hard word for whatever reason, are not as great of that of the Messerschmitt 262. Another thing that's very different is that they don't use the same engine, and the first engine that was used on the Kikka, the TSU-11 engine, was basically nothing more than a turbojet with an afterburner on it, so they had a long way to go. In 1945, the production of the Kikka finally started moving along. The engineers received cutaway pictures of the BMW 003 engine, and then they were able to produce a similar engine somehow. It's not sure how they did it, but they somehow, with some black magic, managed to produce a similar engines. The engine they produced was called the Ishikawajima NE-20, and by summer 1945, the Kikka project was almost over and they were ready to produce the first prototypes. But as we all know, shortly thereafter, the war ended and the Kikka project never reached mass production. Only 10 prototypes, well 7 prototypes and 3 production aircrafts were built, and it only saw air once, so only one single Kikka flew only once. That's enough about the history of the Kikka. Let's talk about the plane that we have in game just a little bit more. Now the Kikka is a tier 5 jet aircraft. It's the first jet aircraft that Japan has access to, and it stands at 6.7 battle rating. Now while that might seem a little low for a jet aircraft, there's a very good reason for it. The Kikka is, rightfully so, considered one of the worst jet aircrafts in the game. It is a copy of a Messerschmitt 262, but it's, like I said earlier, not a very good copy. The energy retention of this aircraft is absolutely poor. It's really bad. You can lose so much speed in a simple turn that it's not even funny. I mean, yeah. Second thing about this aircraft, as you can see on the screen right now, the gun sight, or the excuse for a gun sight, is just a basic simple rod placed on top of bulletproof glass. And while this plane is a copy of the Messerschmitt 262, they did not copy its armament. It's equipped with only one single 30mm gun with 16 rounds of ammo. And it's a Japanese gun, so it's not very accurate. So combining that with the very poor gun sight and with only one single cannon, landing shots with this aircraft is not an easy task. So we reach the conclusion that the Kikka is not a very good aircraft, and to make matters worse, Mr. Unknown here is flying his Kikka completely stock. This is his first match in the Kikka ever, which makes what happens later in this video even more amazing. Now, he did fly this aircraft in custom battles with a friend of his where he compared it to Messerschmitt 262, so he knows a little bit about the aircraft. And he knows enough about the aircraft that he equipped a 500 kilo bomb, just in case he doesn't get any kills, so he can get at least some points from this match. Just to warn you, I will be cutting forward in this video quite a lot because the base replay is almost an hour long. So if I were to produce an hour-long video, that would take a few days at least, so yeah, that's not a very good idea. So the first cut is gonna come here in just a second. So cutting forwards, Mr. Unknown is still circling the skies and looking for that base that he's gonna drop his bomb on. And I don't know if you noticed, but at the beginning of the replay you might have seen that he's got on the underside of his fuselage a heart emblem, which basically means that his bombs come from the heart. And that's a very nice touch that I needed to include in this video. So there he goes, he's starting his dive. Nice aligned here. The Kikka's definitely has very good dive properties, but that's just because it's made out of very base and non-strategic alloys, just like the Messerschmitt 262, which makes it a lot heavier than it's supposed to be. Now he's released his bomb, he scored a nice direct hit, and around this time is where interesting things start happening in this replay. So cutting forward once again, this is just shortly after Mr. Unknown dropped his bomb. He is still in enemy territory, as you can see. He's being peppered by flak, but he notices 3, maybe 4, I just can't see very well here, friendly aircrafts. Well, he doesn't know that they're friendly, I do know that they're friendly, and he starts looking behind himself, which basically means that he has spotted an enemy aircraft. There's a Horton 229 behind him, and there's a P-80, so the first challenger appears, and it's not gonna be the last. So the P-80 decides to disengage from the Horton and decides to start trailing our player here, Mr. Unknown. The thing is, that's a very good thing to do, because while the Horton might be able to outrun the P-80, the Kikka stands absolutely no chance of outrunning the P-80. One certain advantage that the Kikka has over the P-80 is that I believe it has a better roll rate, and another advantage that in this situation Mr. Unknown had is that the P-80 was at a very high energy level and going very fast, so a nice hard turn was able to make the P-80 overshoot and gave him some time to do what he's doing currently, just nosing down and trying to get some speed of his own. Now the Kikka will never win a straight up dogfight with a P-80 if you're on level terms. And well, I mean, it all depends on the pilot, but the Kikka will never be able to outrun a P-80, so what Mr. Unknown is doing now is very smart. He's trying to put some distance between himself and the P-80. One of the advantages of playing simulated battles is that because both you and your enemy are confined to only cockpit view, it's very easy to escape your enemy by just trying to hide and making a lot of violent maneuvers to get out of their field of vision. That's exactly what Mr. Unknown did here. He managed to escape that P-80 by just staying low and trying to blend in with the ground. So we're gonna cut forward in the video once again here. So Mr. Unknown decided to get some altitude and double back to see if he can re-engage some targets. He did see a few friendly planes going in the opposite direction, so that gotta mean there's something. Oh, there he is, up there on top of the screen. You can see him right there. That appears to be a P-80 or an American early jet of some sorts. Now, even though that jet was at a higher altitude, their speed were not equal. Mr. Unknown was going quite a lot faster than that P-80, so it's not a big task for him to just slot on his 6 and try and get close to him. Now you will see what I was talking about just a little bit earlier here as he takes a few ranging shots at that P-80. The combination of a very poor gun sight and only one single 30mm gun are gonna make this very hard for him. Now I noticed that I told you that the P-80 and the Kikka are not very well matched, and the P-80 is a better aircraft, but still, when one gets on the other's tail, it's not easy for the other one to actually escape. Now Mr. Unknown is trying to get a few good shots in here, and you can see here what poor roll rate the P-80 has. Now I think this is the shot that takes him down. He knocks out his pilot. Nope, he knocks out his rudder, excuse me. The P-80 tries to make a very violent turn and he gets himself into a flat spin, which is a very hard thing to do in jets, so basically that P-80 is dead, and he is gonna remain dead in just a few seconds here. So there's Mr. Unknown's first kill, and if I were in his place, I would call this match a success, because flying a stock plane for the first time in an actual match and getting a kill is a very good result. It doesn't happen very often to me. While this was a very good engagement, the fact is the Kikka only holds 60 rounds of ammo, which means that Mr. Unknown will not be able to engage more aircrafts with only 50 rounds he's got remaining, so he needs to go back to the airfield, refuel, rearm, and re-get his bomb. Re-get his bomb, that's not a good word. Moving on, I've cut forward in the video. He's very close to the airfield and he suddenly gets attacked by P-80, which probably dived on him, which means that that P-80 is at a higher energy state than Mr. Unknown. Now, another thing before this engagement starts, I need to tell you that I have no idea about differences between the early American jets, so if I get something wrong, feel free to correct me. Now, the first thing that Mr. Unknown does in this engagement is, since the P-80 is going faster than he is, he tries to go in a very hard turn and make the P-80 lose some speed. Now, another thing that I told you before is that the Kikka was made out of non-strategic materials, which means that the Kikka is, unsurprisingly, a very, very sturdy aircraft, which this P-80 is gonna know just very soon here. Now, while the P-80 is peppering Mr. Unknown with his 50 cal guns, you might have heard just a second ago that Mr. Unknown popped his flaps. He's trying to make the P-80 overshoot him because at this point in the engagement, he is not in a very good spot, and at this point, Mr. Unknown manages to force a yo-yo maneuver, and the Kikka is a lot better in the yo-yo maneuver than the P-80 is because of its superior roll rate. Now, we're gonna see in just a second how close Mr. Unknown comes to shooting down this P-80. So he goes up, the P-80 goes down below, and he manages to get guns on targets. He goes for a shot and he just misses by just a little bit. But I think it's at this point that the P-80 understands that he is not at an advantage here, and he just, after this little maneuver here, he just, I don't know, he goes away. He is not to be seen again after this. Well, it might just be that the P-80 lost sight of our player here, Mr. Unknown, but the fact is the P-80 is not to be seen after this, so Mr. Unknown can safely go back to the airfield and refuel, rearm, and get back his bomb. So cutting forward once again, Mr. Unknown is rearmed, refueled, and ready to go. He crossed over to the enemy side of the battlefield, and he appears to have noticed an enemy plane. And from this distance, and from those tracer rounds, that appears to be an F-8F Bearcat? Yes, that's an F-8F Bearcat. And while Bearcats and prop planes are very hard to deal with while you're in a jet plane, this Bearcat doesn't seem to notice Mr. Unknown. So Mr. Unknown gets very close in here. Look at this. Pulls his lead. One single shot in that Bearcat goes straight through his fuselage and snipes his pilot. That's a very, very good shot there. But the fun is not over. Just behind him, he looks behind and notices some enemy tracers. What appears to be some sort of P-80 shooting at a Horton Ho 29. Horton Ho 29, 229. So he doubles back, goes back him, the Horton passes through him, which means that P-80 is going to be passing very close to him, takes a lead, another burst of ammo, and another kill. So that's 2 kills, 2 amazing kills in a very short span of time. I gotta say, this is one of the best shooting that I've ever seen, especially when you take into consideration that it's only got one single gun, and look at this gun sight, this excuse of a gun sight. So after this amazing engagement where he got 2 kills in very rapid succession, Mr. Unknown is again left with a very low ammo count. And if you look at the top of the screen, you will see that ticket counters are both low for both the enemy team and the friendly team, but they're still in favor for the Mr. Unknown's team. So what he wants to do at this point in time is get back to the airfield, refuel and rearm, this time not carry a bomb, because at this point in time I believe there's only 1 or maybe 2 aircraft on the enemy team still alive. So if he's able to get 1 or 2 maybe kills, he will be able to win on tickets alone. But that's not what actually happens. We're gonna skip forward in the video just a little bit here. So once again, Mr. Unknown is on his way back to the airfield, and he's accompanied by a few friendly aircraft, but he feels something is amiss. So he looks back and sees what appears to be a silhouette of a P-80. So, spoiler alert, for the 3rd time while returning back to the airfield, he is attacked by what appears to be the same exact P-80 that attacked him his first time. And again, he's gonna do what he does best, he's gonna mess around with him. So the P-80 is again at a higher energy state than Mr. Unknown, which means that he's gonna do what he does best. He tries to make him overshoot at the first turn, but the P-80 is very smart and goes into barrel roll to avoid that, and he's back again on Mr. Unknown 6 very quickly here. Now I told you before 2 times already that the Kikka is a very sturdy airplane, but this is gonna be made very apparent in this engagement. Because while Mr. Unknown is a very good pilot, as you might have seen earlier in this match, this P-80 pilot that is on his 6 is also a very good pilot and is not allowing Mr. Unknown to make him overshoot. Even though Mr. Unknown already popped his flaps, is doing a lot of evasive maneuvers to lose speed, that P-80 is still very insistent on being on his 6. He does lose him for a second there, but the P-80 goes back. The P-80 was a very smart pilot, as you can see, and I think this is the moment where he scores his first few hits on Mr. Unknown. You will see in this engagement how many hits the Kikka can take and still keep flying unmolested. So just a second ago I was singing praises to that P-80 pilot, and granted he is a good pilot, he is managing to avoid Mr. Unknown's to hamper Mr. Unknown's attempts to making him overshoot by constantly doing barrel rolls on himself and making his airplane lose the same amount of speed Mr. Unknown is losing. But what he isn't is a good shot. You're gonna see in just a second, and you've been seeing it throughout this engagement, how many shots this P-80 missed. But this is the first quality shot in just a second that he's gonna make on Mr. Unknown. There, right there. He shot him in the left wing and managed to what appears to be damage some of his engine properties. But as you can see, Mr. Unknown managed to successfully make the P-80 slightly overshoot him, which means that with his skills as a pilot, he can make the P-80 go into yo-yo maneuver. You can see now almost the whole plane of the whole Kikka here is completely yellow and orange. But yeah, Mr. Unknown here managed to make the P-80 overshoot him. He's going down to ground level to get some distance between the two of them. he loses the P80 for just a second, notices him on the right side and tries to get guns on target very quickly here. The P80 is doing exactly the same thing. They want to go for a head-on here. The P80 is gonna win if he gets a good shot in. Mr. Unknown fires a burst at the P80 and whoa! What the hell was that? That was the Horton Ho from a few minutes ago. Guess what? He broke his wing with that very fast dive, and now there's absolutely nobody left on the team except for a Arado with guns to help him actually fight against this P80. So with that Horton 229 dead, there's absolutely nobody on the friendly team that can help Mr. Unknown with this P80, and this P80 is being very persistent. He's probably expended most of his ammo by now, as he still hasn't landed one single critical hit on Mr. Unknown. That is also due to the fact that Mr. Unknown is a great pilot, but the Kikka is also a very sturdy aircraft, as you saw. I think it's at this point in time that Mr. Unknown says, okay, let's play a game. Who can fly their aircrafts the slowest? And he probably throttles down here, pulls his flaps, as you can see in a second, while he dodges another shot of 50 cals. He's flying under 300 kilometers an hour, and this P80 comes very close to crashing into him and very close to taking him down, but still he's missing a lot of his shots, even though they're flying in what seems to be an inverted yo-yo maneuver. I gotta say, Mr. Unknown really likes his yo-yo maneuvers, because this is like the third time he's managed to force this one. You're gonna see in a second a big change in this confrontation. Now, the P80 is still shooting at Mr. Unknown, but now he's got guns on targets at this point, and he's not shooting. Can you guess what happened? Yes, the P80 actually ran out of ammo. He managed to shoot so many times with those 650 cal guns at Mr. Unknown, miss so many freaking times. I mean, this engagement lasted for 5 minutes that he is so desperate now. He ran out of ammo. He actually tried to ram Mr. Unknown. Look at this. He's flying so close. He tries to ram him, but Mr. Unknown very wisely pulls up and gets some speed into him. Well, he's actually going very slow now, but you know what I mean. He's still trying to get guns on this P80. Almost gets it there, but I think at this point in time that the P80 says, okay, I just don't want to do this anymore, and Mr. Unknown pulls up the throttle and gets the hell out of there, and the P80 is not seen again. Not seen again. Yeah, you know what I mean. So for the third time in this match, Mr. Unknown has successfully avoided an attacking aircraft, and I mean, he frustrated that P80 to the point where he tried to freaking ram him, and then whilst failing ramming, just ran away in the other direction. So yeah, we're gonna skip forward in the video to the last part of this amazing video. So repaired, rearmed and refueled, Mr. Unknown is finally back into the match. Now, after a few minutes of searching, him and the last remaining friendly aircraft, the Arado small bomber, managed to finally locate the last enemy aircraft. And the last enemy aircraft is unsurprisingly the same P80 who was giving Mr. Unknown so much trouble just a few minutes ago. Now, the P80, the situation has changed, and now Mr. Unknown is trying to catch the P80 while he's trying to catch the Arado. But the thing is, the Arado, while being a bomber, is still a very small aircraft, as you can see. It's not all that much bigger than the P80. And while being so small, it's got a very powerful engine, and it's very maneuverable. So the P80 is not having all that much fun trying to catch this Arado. Now, Mr. Unknown places a few shots, tries to get a few shots off into the P80, and at this point of time you might be thinking, oh, the P80 noticed him because he shot directly in front of him, but the P80 does nothing to respond to the fact that he's been shot at, and he's completely and utterly focused on that Arado, which gives Mr. Unknown a lot of time to actually get on his 6, get a nice, very nice lead here. He's very close to the P80, puts a few shots into him, he messes up his fuselage, goes up into a barrel roll to go into his final attack of this match. Now, this is a very hard maneuver to actually pull off without crashing, but he does lose a lot of speed. The P80 is beneath him, puts another shot into him, still not dead. Now he's gonna stop, focus, aim very nicely, and there it is. His 4th kill in the match, and this is, ladies and gentlemen, how you fly the Kikka. This was one amazing replay, and thank you, Mr. Unknown, for sending it to me. I thoroughly enjoyed this. We're gonna see some nice celebratory rolling here with smoke on. But yeah, my name has been Soulfax. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.